I was watching back footage of me riding Diesel, and I came to the realization that we are not making progress. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Strong in the Saddle. I'm your host Katrina, and today we are talking about riding plateaus because it has been top of mind for me these days because I feel like I'm really spinning my wheels with Diesel, or just not spinning my wheels at all, just standing still, and something needs to be done about it. And I'm pretty sure this is not something unique to me. I'm pretty sure everyone, whether you're brand new, you're a non-pro, you're a professional, we all experience plateaus at some point with a horse, but all is not for nothing. There is ways to get out of a riding plateau. A riding plateau refers to a phase or a period where a rider's progress or a horse's progress becomes stagnant or slows down. It's a point where you feel like either the rider or the horse is just not further developing their skills, they're not becoming better at the things that they're doing, and yeah, everything's just kind of staying the same. And I guess I should say right off the bat here, there's nothing wrong with staying the same. Like me and Junior, we've been exactly the same for a number of years at this point, and I am a-okay with that. Like there's nothing more that I want from Junior. He's turning 23 very, very soon. I have no big audacious goals with him. I'm good being in a plateau with Junior. Diesel, on the other hand, I do have very big goals for him. I have things in my head of where I imagine we can be, and a plateau is frustrating because it means I'm not making progress towards those goals in the way that I would like. So riding plateaus, they can kind of occur for a variety of reasons. One of the most obvious ones is just you've mastered the fundamentals. When you're first starting out, whether that be you're a new rider or you're starting out with a young horse, the learning curve, the progress is usually pretty steep. Like you're learning a lot, like things are improving every single day, everything's new, you're learning all these things. But then as you start to become proficient at some of those fundamentals, the progress kind of tapers off. And I think in this case, that's exactly what's happened to Diesel. He's got the fundamentals down for the most part. And now we're at this point where we're at this plateau, and like the next step is like really adding finesse and moving on to advanced maneuvers. And so there's kind of this spot in between where it feels like we're not making any progress at all. Another reason that a riding plateau could occur is just the complex nature of riding. There's, like I said, so you get past those fundamentals and then you're starting to move on to the more complex maneuvers. So think, in my mind, the first thing that comes up is flying lead changes. That is a very, very complex maneuver that requires a lot of mastery of a lot of different fundamentals in order to be able to get that advanced maneuver figured out. And so you might feel like you're not making any progress as you're kind of like chipping away at some of those more advanced maneuvers. Another reason a riding plateau might occur is just due to a limited access to a quality instructor. And especially when you are kind of in the stage where I'm at, like you're not a beginner, so you're not wanting a beginner instructor, but you're also not super advanced. And it's kind of trying to find a riding instructor that is qualified to teach more than a beginner. Like I feel like so many people could teach a beginner person how to ride, or teach a horse the fundamentals of walk, trot, lope, steer right, steer left, stop, back up. Like those things, like most people can figure that out. It's when you get to like the place where I'm at, or even more advanced, where yeah, finding quality instructors is it's more difficult, and that can result in a plateau because, as I've said before, one of the amazing things about having an instructor is that it can speed up your progress insanely. Like the amount of progress you can make with an instructor versus riding by yourself is it's mind-boggling. And if you're not with an instructor, it's kind of like, it's not that you're not going to make progress, but it's a lot slower. And so if you're not finding an instructor, you're going to be trying to figure things out on your own, which, as I much know very well, figuring things out on your own takes a very long time. And like I said, you might be making progress, but the fact that your progress is so slow, it might feel like you've hit a plateau. Another final reason for a riding plateau, and I did talk about this a bit last week, is confidence and just mental barriers. Humans are very good at like finding their comfort zone, staying in their lane. Like, just you get comfortable with what you're doing, and then to be able to move outside of that sphere of comfort is incredibly challenging. And so you might just be kind of stuck where you're at because you're not comfortable getting uncomfortable. And in order to get past that plateau, you're going to have to push yourself a little bit in maybe ways that don't feel quite great initially, until like you kind of bust through and just expand where your comfort zone lies. And perhaps beyond anything else that I talk about today, that might be one of the most challenging things to do, is to bust through any confidence issues or mental barriers that you might have. I will speak for myself, it is my biggest challenge for sure. So I've kind of, when I was doing research for this episode, I kind of identified several types of plateaus, because like everyone's situation is going to be different because we're all different human beings, and we all have different horses. And so the type of plateau that you're specifically dealing with might be different than the plateau that I'm currently dealing with. So the plateaus that I identified are a skill development plateau. So riders are going to reach a point where they've mastered the basics, like I said, but now they're at this point where they need to move to intermediate and advanced skills, and jumping to that next level can definitely be a challenge. Another plateau, as I just mentioned, is the confidence plateau. So you're comfortable where you're at, you're really good at where you're at, but you want to get to a higher level, which happens to lie outside of your comfort zone. So you might just be stuck because, yeah, you don't want to get uncomfortable, which totally understandable. I can resonate with that 100%. Another plateau is a competition plateau. So riders who compete, they might find themselves reaching a plateau in their performance where they struggle to achieve a higher score or a better time. And it's kind of tricky because you might be riding at the level that you're at, but now it's almost like nitpicking, like, where am I losing time? Where am I losing points? And like really critiquing where you're at. And I think this is probably for people who are a bit more advanced in where they're at competitively. It's like, yeah, just finessing your competition results basically. And that can be very challenging because it can be the most minute, tiny little tweaks that you need to make. And finding where you need to make those tweaks can be incredibly frustrating. Another plateau is just a learning plateau. Riders might reach a point where their learning curve just slows down and they struggle to acquire new knowledge or to expand their horsemanship skills. This can occur when riders feel like they've exhausted all the available resources, or when they lack exposure to new training techniques or disciplines or perspectives. With this one, a learning plateau, I feel like this is the easiest plateau to bust through because we have things like the internet, YouTube, all of this knowledge available. Like this, if you're dealing with this plateau, like congratulations, you're gonna get through this very, very quickly. For the rest of us, we have a bit more work to do. And the last plateau that I identified was just a plateau in horse-related goals. So riders might find themselves stuck in achieving specific goals that they've set for themselves and their horses. This could include like reaching a performance level, mastering a particular maneuver, or just overcoming specific challenges with your equine partner. So again, this one's a bit more specific. I don't think it's quite as specific as that competition plateau that I mentioned, but it is very specific because it's talking about this certain goal that you've set and just getting stuck within that specific goal. So yeah, those are kind of the plateaus that I identified. But as I said, do not lose hope. Regardless of which plateau you are currently at, it's possible to get past every single one of those types of plateaus. And with that said, now I want to give you some like tangible, specific ways that you can break through these plateaus regardless of the type of plateau that you're dealing with, because it's nice to know all this theory, like, okay, this is the plateau that I'm dealing with, like all this theory, okay, great. I want practical tips on how to actually move on from this because I am stuck. I'm stuck and it's frustrating and I want to move on. So here are the ways to break through these plateaus. And as lame as it sounds, my first one is to set a goal. I know you're rolling your eyes like, goal setting, whatever. I've been down this road, but I want to question you here. So maybe if you're like me, January 1st, you set some resolutions that included your horse goals. We are now, as I'm recording this, we are at May 21st. And like that's 5.5 months, I guess, of having time to get those goals in your rearview mirror and totally forget about them. I would definitely encourage you to sit down and set specific horse-related goals that have the aim of breaking through this plateau and really being, I'm gonna, again, roll your eyes, SMART goals. So specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. So specific, like if someone else is reading this, they're gonna know what the heck you're talking about. Measurable, at 3 months from now, I need to be able to look at the goal you set and look at your riding 3 months from now and say, I could easily identify whether or not you achieved that goal. We don't want any ambiguity with your goals. They need to be measurable. Action-oriented, so I want specific steps on how you are going to achieve that goal. Realistic, if you have a green horse and you are a green rider, like you're not making big splashes in the horse industry anytime soon. So realistic and time-bound. Again, I want specifics on like even like the big goal itself as well as like milestones in between. Everything needs to have a time limit set to it. So that is my first strategy. I need you to sit down, ideally with pen and paper, because apparently there is research, and I don't have a study in front of me to quote, but there is research to say that people who physically write down their goals are whatever percentage more likely to achieve them. So specifically write out your goals, keep them in a place where you see them on a regular basis, and get cracking. That is the first strategy. The second strategy is to seek professional help. So I don't want you to get help from your neighbor down the road. I want you to get help from someone who has, well, your neighbor down the road might have the experience we're looking for. I want someone who has achieved things with horses that you would like to achieve and who is also good at providing instruction, because there's definitely people out there in the horse industry who are phenomenal horse people who cannot give riding lessons. They're not teachers. So really look for some sort of professional guidance. And I'm not saying that you need to like sign up for a year-long training program with them. Like even just a few training lessons to get a second set of eyes on you and your horse might be all that you need to break through a training plateau. So there's lessons. You could also consider clinics. You know, summertime, I feel like there's lots of clinics going on here in Alberta, so definitely check out clinics. There's also an online option. So I know there are trainers out there that they'll have, like, you can submit videos and they'll send you feedback. There's even trainers who will like do like a riding Zoom call with you, so it's live when they're teaching you. The great thing about that is you can have access to some bigger name people. Like I'm pretty sure Stacy Westfall has a training program like that. So yeah, whatever your avenue of getting professional guidance, definitely something that you need to consider, especially if you've been struggling with a plateau for a longer period of time. My third strategy for you is to embrace challenges, embrace getting uncomfortable. So definitely talking to myself here, I am very bad for just getting comfortable with things, finding out what works for me, and then not moving beyond that. So one thing that I might do is set a challenge for myself that I want you to get nervous on your horse every single time that you're on him. And not in a, I don't know if that's phrased quite right, but like making myself do something on my horse that makes me uncomfortable every single time. So one thing that I might challenge myself to do is to make myself uncomfortable every time I ride my horse. So it's just like pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So I don't know if that might be like making him go faster, or maybe doing a bit more of an aggressive rollback or something like that. Just something that like gets my heart beating a little bit and like, gets me uncomfortable, out of my comfort zone, doing something a bit more advanced than what I'm used to, and just embracing that feeling. And the more and more that you embrace that feeling, the more and more comfortable you're gonna get with being uncomfortable, as weird as that sounds. So that is another strategy for breaking through a plateau, is just get uncomfortable. Another strategy that I have for you is to focus on fundamentals. And this actually might be as counterintuitive as it sounds for those of you in that competition plateau where you're trying to find like that little bit extra that you need to get more points. Like going back to the basics or the fundamentals could be your answer, because that is where everything comes from. Like just the basics of walk, trot, lope, stop, back up, left, right, and being able to do all those things, as well as some additional basic maneuvers. Being able to do those extremely well will serve you in whatever direction you're going with your horse. So having that like concrete foundation that you know is solid regardless of what is going on, having that behind you at least serves as like a jumping off point where you can, move on to the bigger and better things that you're looking for. Another thing that you might want to consider is cross training. So if you're a reiner, maybe consider trying something else. I don't know if you want to do some penning, some cow horse stuff, some cutting, or even like jumping disciplines, going to like something like dressage. Like getting out of where you're at, because I know it can feel like you're just stuck and you can't move. Getting out of that and doing something completely different for even just a temporary little while, like even a weekend, might be just what you need to like come back with fresh eyes, fresh mind, and finally move on from that plateau. One solution that I think is really obvious but maybe overlooked is, as lame as it sounds, consistency and practice. The more hours you have in the saddle, quality hours that you have in the saddle, the quicker you're going to get through things, right? And so if you're only riding 3 days a week, like consider bumping that up, because that is what just putting the time in. It's like that 10,000 hour rule that I think it's Malcolm Gladwell saying that you need 10,000 hours to have like become a master at something. Like how long is it going to take you to become a master at riding your horse So how long is it going to take you to get in that 10,000 hours if you're only riding 3 days a week? Like, it's going to take a long, long time. And you might not want to be a master at riding, but if you want to get through this plateau, then consider like bumping up the effort a little bit and like being very, very consistent in terms of like your schedule, but as well as like how you're riding. Like if you're throwing everything at the wall, that's not going to help either. So being consistent and just like be showing up every single day, that is going to get you through a plateau. One other suggestion that I wanted to throw in here, just because I know it's helped me a lot just in my riding overall, is my fitness. Like, I am so much stronger now than I was even 5 years ago. And that has directly translated into how comfortable I feel in the saddle. So I know that like, regardless of what my horse does underneath me, I'm okay. Like I got this, and that helps a lot with my riding, which translates to the kind of progress we can get. Like that might not be like a direct, like do this and it's gonna help you overcome your plateau, but it's just something to consider. Like, especially if you've been spinning your wheels for a long time, like consider it. Like it's not gonna hurt anything if you're fitter, right? Like it's only gonna help. So definitely something to consider. And my last little tidbit for you on breaking through a plateau is, you guys are gonna hate me for this, it's just patience and just persevering through this period of time. It's just a thing that happens with horses. Like you get stuck in a rut, and then it seems like all of a sudden, like, whoa, how did we get this far? It happens, right? But you just have to stick with it and just stay cool. Just keep showing up, as I said, and just, it'll happen. And if you're throwing the rest of these solutions at it as well, in addition to staying patient, you'll get through this, I promise, okay? It's just, and I think I really struggle with this. Like right now, I'm on the verge of being frustrated about where I'm at with Diesel. I'm frustrated, and I don't even want to look at videos of me riding him right now because I'm like, why aren't we farther along? But it's just, that hasn't discouraged me from going to the barn every day. I'm like, well, the only way we're gonna get through this is if I keep riding him. Like me being frustrated and being like, no, I'm not gonna go to the barn today, that's not gonna help anything. So just persevere, stay patient, stay consistent, you will get through this. Those are kind of my tips for getting through whatever kind of plateau you're dealing with, whether it be directly related to your riding or related to your horse, or maybe like a combination of the two. Regardless of what kind of plateau you have going on, like I said, just sticking with it, trying these techniques, you will get through. A few other things just to keep in mind, like even just talking to other people that can relate to your situation and who you can bounce ideas off of, that can help a lot. Staying motivated, so I don't know, like watching YouTubes of amazing riders doing their thing, that can be what you need to, like, just on days where you're feeling frustrated, give you that motivation to get out to the barn. And I would also say, like I said, I am frustrated and I don't want to even film myself on Diesel right now. Film yourself, especially if you're riding alone. If you don't have the help of an instructor, film yourself so you can, having that, like seeing yourself from that far off distance, giving yourself like almost like a second set of eyes on your riding, that is huge to help you identify where you need to improve. And when you see you're improving, regardless of how small it is, celebrate those little victories, because that is what's going to keep you going. And I know this can be very slow going. I'm in it right now. I feel your pain, but keep going. Celebrate those small victories. It will work out. If you guys want to see me trudging through this plateau that I've somehow found myself on with Diesel, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Strong in the Saddle. Be sure to subscribe to this channel because I will be continuing to update you guys on where we're at. And until next time, remember, it's always a good day to ride.